Hi viewers, and welcome to the channel, and welcome to a question and answer session. So this is a video in regards to a few comments I've had on my channel. I think there's been about 3 people that asked me how to create geometry or faces on curved surfaces from sketches or wires, and this video will show you how to use 3 different tools to create basically the same effect. So you can use one tool that's in the part workbench, and there's a couple of tools in the curves workbench as well. So you can choose any of those 3 tools, whichever one you like you can use in there, and you can mix and match them throughout your models. But this is a quick tutorial of how to do that. Well, I say quick, I'll go through every single one and show you how to use those. So I hope this answers the questions, and well, let's have a look at these tools and see how we use them. If you like this video, please hit a like and also subscribe to the channel. I also have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate to my contributions to the community, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. So I'm going to start with creating a new document, and I'm going to jump over for the first demonstration in the part workbench. We're going to create a number of curved surfaces on here. So we're going to say you can have a ball or a sphere. I'll set that to something like a radius of 100 millimeters. Zoom out a bit, and also we're going to have a cylinder. Let's just transform this sphere. Move that out of the way. There's our cylinder there, and we'll make that a radius of moments 2, so 100. And a height of 200, and just transform that out the way. Also, I'm going to have a different curved surface. So we've got a spherical, a cylinder, and I'm going to create a sketch in here. And I'm going to go from the top, and I'm going to create a sketch. It's Y plane, and we're going to create just a curve in here with the B spline, something like an S curve, like that. So we've got our curve there, and we'll create something across this as well. Let's close that. Bring that round, and what I'll do is I'll just jump over to the part, because that's where I'm going to be for the first demonstration. We'll just extrude that by something like 100 millimeters. There we go. Let's do it a bit more. 150. There we go. So we've got 3 surfaces there. And we're going to look at projection for creating like a logo or a shape on those surfaces. I've already got a logo that I can actually import. Well, it's just basically a shape, and I'm going to import that as an SVG. You can create something in Sketcher. We'll go through that as well. Create in Sketcher. You can even create a face to place on those curved surfaces. And we'll just import. And I've got one called mask there, and let's take these 3 and just press the space bar on those just to hide those, because I want to work on this first, because there's some geometry in here that I don't want, and it's this path. We can get rid of that, and I've got some pieces there. Let's go out to edit, box selection, and get rid of those. So I've got one path there. This is what I'm going to place onto these different objects. And first of all, we need to get this round the right way. I normally use mouse when I'm demonstrating. Normally I use shortcut keys, but if I'm using the mouse, you know exactly what I'm doing. And looking from the top, it's okay. So that's fine. And where do we want to place it? I'm going to place it over here because we can transform it in a minute. bring back that sphere and cylinder, and let's have a look where we are. So to get this onto one of these surfaces, I'm going to transform it into position. So I've got the camera looking straight at that cylinder at the moment. So I'm going to transform that and place it where I want. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to bring the cylinder down a bit in size, in the radius. So we're going to go for about 75. There we go. Or even further, 60. So I want to cast this mask onto this cylinder here. And the way to do that is we get ourselves positioned how we want it to be placed on that cylinder. So we're looking at from the camera projection. So if I'm looking, if I was saying in the front here, I will be casting straight through this object and straight onto this surface. So you have to get this in the position you want. So if I place it in the position here, it will be placed on the top of here. If I placed it like this, part of it will be coming off the bottom. So I use the front view and place that on that surface like that. So we've got that there. There's an icon with a little F in there, little green F, saying project edges, wires or faces of one object onto the face of another object. So the camera view determines where that's going to be placed. And that's the projection, the camera projection. It's also available from part create projection on surface. So we just use that icon or use that menu item there. And the first thing it's going to ask us is, if we follow this down, just follow it from top to bottom, select projection surface. Click on this. So you've got to click that button. And then it will ask you to, well, it's not asking you, it's you have to select something. So you need to select the surface that your icon, your sketch, your geometry is going to be cast upon. So I'm going to select the cylinder. You can see the cylinder has gone see-through. So just click on the front, and because we've already selected from the front, so we can come down here and get the current camera direction, which is 0, -1, 0, which has already been selected. But if we move slightly, say if we wanted it down here, click that again, you can see it changes. So I'll be casting that along that area there. And I want to go to the front, so I'm going to get camera direction again, and there they are, all set. So now we need to add either the wires or the face or the edges. So I'm going to add this face here. So I'm going to add face and select that face. Take the mouse off, it's gone purple. If we just move now, you'll see a green shape attached to that cylinder. So that's been cast upon there. Now we've got some other options, so you can move this now, it doesn't matter, so you can move this out of the way because we've already casted that upon that cylinder. You've got this extrude height, which you can change, and you'll see that extrude will change in height. So if I put 60 here, you can see it'll come out like so. Or if I put 10 there, it'll just come out 10. And you've got the solid depth as well. So if you look at this solid, this is the solid at the moment. If we change this depth to 10, that's inset it inside that cylinder because it's 10 height. So I set it to something like 18, then that's going to be inside there. And if I set to 5, that's going to be protruding out slightly there. So we hit OK, and that's on that surface there. So we can hide this one, or we can get rid of it if you so desire. It's not parametric, so if anything you do to this will not affect that surface. There is a parametric way of doing this, and it's inside the curves workbench, and we'll get to that in a moment. So that's sitting on that surface there. I'm just going to hide this one, so I'm going to press space on that, and it's created a projection object here, which can be transformed up and down or moved off of there. So you can see how that's curved there. And also, I can get it back into position like that. Hit OK. and we can take that. So we take that surface, cylinder, control click this one, and you've got your Boolean operations here if you so desire. So I've just inset it into there like so. And if you look at the view, you'll see that there's the cut, and inside here we've got the projection object. You can see the reason why it's green, because the shade color is green. So we can change that if we so desire to the same color as these objects. But that's indented in there. As you can see, it's just indented in there. So it's good for curving any logos around objects if you so desire. Let me just remove that. Let's get rid of the cut, get rid of the projection, bring back path, and let's take it from a different direction. So I'm going to have it so it falls off the bottom like so. Let's bring this up a bit. So this is falling off the bottom there. And again, if I press the F, the box, select the projection surface, this one. I'm happy with the camera view. I'm going to go with that camera view. I'm going to add the face, this one. And I just clicked it again there. Let's add that face again. There we go. And you can see what's happened. It's fallen off the bottom there. I'm going to cancel that because I may have clicked that twice. So let's try that again. So that's the projection. Set the projection surface, which is this one. Add the face, this one. And you can see how that's projected part of that face on there. Let's cancel that and try it from this angle, something like that. So select the projection surface, which is this one, add the face, this one, and you can see how that's been partly wrapped around there. So you have to be careful with your projection because it will skew it around there if you're not careful. Because if you think about it, it's to do with projection of light. So if I shone a torch through this object here, the shadow will be cast around the cylinder like so. If we just take that and move it over to, let's transform, move it over to this way. Okay, that, and project it on here. I'm going to just change the size of the sphere slightly. So come down, looking at data, looking at the radius, about 80, and we can do the same on here as well. So just clicking on the icon, select projection surface, which is your sphere, add the face, adding that face there, it's gone purple, and you can see that's been added there. Let's cancel that and go through the others. So click on the path, cells positioned, add the face. Matter of fact, I'm going to, instead of adding the face, I'm going to add the edges. So we can select these edges around here and they will get projected upon there. So you can see how that's projected on there. And if I select the other one as well, and those are being projected upon there. And we can select the others because we've already set our camera direction, because you can see it's grayed out, it's already selected, so we can move around this if we so desire. Unfortunately, you can't come up and use the box select in this mode, so you have to actually click each of these edges. And even if you use the shortcut, just Shift and E and select those, that won't actually work. So you have to actually select each of these edges to get them on there. I'm just going to do a few of those edges. So you can see those edges have been added there, and we've got the projection object there. That's not closed shape, so we could extrude that. And we want to extrude it in the Y direction, because that's not going to add a extrude at the moment. So if we come down to custom direction and Y, it's only part of that face there. but we can extrude that. And if I hide the sphere, you can see the extrusion has gone forwards. I didn't have it coming out this way. Let's get rid of those and the projection object and bring back the sphere. So we've looked at projection on the part workbench. We're going to jump over to the curves workbench now and look at some of the projections on there. Now there's two tools on there. There's the trim face and also there's the sketch on a curved surface. And if I jump over to the curves workbench, we can see where those are. If you look at the scene and wondering why it looks different, I've just had a computer crash. I'm working on quite an old laptop. That's all I have at the moment. And it has a tendency to run quite slow and also crash a lot. So it's nothing to do with FreeCAD. I even get this in Word. So we got the scene in front of us. We've got our face that we want to project. And we're now in the curves workbench. We've got two options in here. We've got the trim a face with a projective curve. So again, we're looking at projection. And also we've got this one here. And this map a sketch on a surface. So the first one we're going to look at is the trim a face with a projective curve. Now this has got some parametric capabilities about it. So to use this tool, we need to make this into an edge or a wire. So to do that, we need to make use of the draft workbench because we can't project a face onto this. It requires edges or a wire to do that, or even a sketch. So we're going to get rid of this face, and we can do that by the draft, and we're going to use something called upgrade and downgrade to do this. To upgrade an object, you make it more complex. To downgrade it, you take that complexity away. So you can click on this path here, and we've got modifications and downgrade. And if we come to our toolbar and look at the downgrade, this tells you what it actually does. So downgrade a selected object into as simple as shapes and tells you what will happen with the results there. If I click it, what will happen, it'll turn it into a wire. And then if I click it again, it will go into even more simpler shapes, which are edges. Now I don't want the edges, so I'm going to Control Z that. If I took those edges and upgraded them, they will actually go back to a wire. So we've got this here. And what we need to do is come back into the curves workbench. And we're going to make use of the selection in here. Now this is quite important. So we need the panel up. So go to View, Panel, Selection View. This is really for shortcuts. If we had a more simpler object here, so we had less edges on here, then just control clicking those edges would work. But you can't select that wire, and what you would actually do is select the edges and then get yourself positioned, say this projection's okay for me, and then I would Control select the cylinder and hit the trim face. You'll notice nothing has happened because we need to select the individual edges of this shape. Now this is laborious, and you can see that in the selection view we get those edges there, so we need to select those edges without going through and control selecting all of these. There is a way to do it. So if we go out to edit and look for box element selection, we can use that. There's a little gotcha here. If you select part of this and just leave a little bit out, so you've left those two edges out, you get all the edges in here, and you can just select those two like so. And that's what we want, because when we go and Control select the cylinder and use the tool, then that will actually work. So you can see that's worked. That's removed that face from there. Just undo that, bring back the cylinder. I've actually gone too far. Pressing Control Z doesn't really work very well in the curves workbench, so I'm just going to go back to the draft and downgrade that again. There we go, downgrade that to a wire and go back to the curves. So we've got these edges now, and we're talking about selections. So edit, box selection, or Shift E. So box element selection you want. But if we highlighted all of this, you can see that we've only got the wire. I've just control selected that to remove it from selection. You can see we've only got the wire selected. It's actually taking, because we've highlighted the whole lot, and that won't work. So if I control select this and use the trim, then that's not going to work. It doesn't actually do anything. So we need to select just the edges. So we need to miss an edge basically when we do the selection. So edit, box element selection, and then come in, and I'm just going to see if I can miss, say, that edge there. And you can see we've got unnamed cylinders come in here, which we don't want, and what we can do is come in here and right click, deselect, so that cylinder's gone now, and I can come back in and control select that edge like so. So we've got those selected now, and then we can make our selection against the cylinder and do the removal. Now it matters where you place your mouse pointer. So I was placing it outside this cut, and you can see we've got the trim face there, which is parametric. We'll get to that in a minute. We can modify this if we so desire. So we've actually got this face removed from the object. Now what I want to do is keep this face. So we do a different selection for that. Let's get rid of the trim face and bring back the cylinder. Now for that, I'm just going to do the box element selection again and miss a bit. So that's miss. So I've missed those two vertices down there, but we've got all those wires, so I don't have to select anything, but I've just missed those vertices. So that one there and that one there. So that's given us those wires there. So we've got those wires selected, or those edges selected, and this time I'm going to control click inside. And what this will do is that will remove the outside of the object and keep the inside. So we've got that there. Again, if we come in, you can see we've got the cylinder in here. So we've got this ability here to bring back the other shape and do operations against that one. It has created a face, so we need to give it some offset or extrusion in the part. So I can offset that, fill offset, and let's give it a bit more of an offset there. So let's go for 5 and OK that. And there you can see we've got that there. So we've got a nice curve where that sits. If you think about it, if you've got a curve behind here, that's the same diameter as your face, which just made a mask there. So you could use that to make masks, etc. So that's quite handy to know. And this was just an SVG that I've pulled from the net. I'll place that in there, but that's easy to create in something like Inkscape, or even create your own through the sketcher. So we've got this here. If I get rid of this and that face and the cylinder, bring back the cylinder because it hides each time we trim the face, then we can go back to our draft and I can select that wire. When I said face, I meant basically a mask, but it's a wire, it's not an actual face as in 3D face. And I'm going to convert that to a sketch. So I'm going to use a convert bidirectionally between draft, objects and sketches. And that's also available up on modifications, draft to sketch. And you can see what's happened in the background. If we just press the spacebar on here, we've got another one that's sitting here. And it's sketch, so double click this. And we've got a sketch that we can come in and edit if we so desire. We've got an object behind there. Let's come back in, get our model I've got the sketch, let's get rid of that wire. There we go. So if I use this sketch now and then made a modification afterwards, what you'll see will happen is bring back the cylinder. And I'm just going to take that sketch and move it forward. So you're just using the placement there. Or because it's not got any support, we could even come in to something like the top, bring this in. We're still in the draft, and I'm going to click the sketch, use the move tool, click and move it over here like so. So I can do that and then do the same again in the front, go into position. So I'm just going to use the properties to move this now. So we've got the placement, we've got the position, and we've got the Z-axis. And we can move this along the Z-axis and place it into position there. So I've got the projection right. I'm happy with the projection. So I'm going to project onto that plane with that sketch. So I'm going to select the sketch and I'm going to use the inside of that, and I should be in the curves workbench. We're in the curves workbench now. So select the sketch, control select the inside, and we use the trim. See, it can't work because we haven't selected the edges. So we're going to use our box selection again, edit box selection, and come in and select and miss a couple of vertices down the bottom, something like that. There you go. So that's selected now. And then control select the inside or the outside, whatever you want, and then use that trim. So we've got that now, and you can see our sketch in front there. And because we was in the draft workbench, we've got the grid behind. We can get rid of that by going back into the draft workbench if we so desire. I'm going to hide that sketch for a second. So that's gone, so you can see that face there. Now if I come into the sketch, so I'm going to modify this a bit, so I'm going to pull out these ends. Like so, and close that. So you can see now that's modified and it's actually gone round the other side as well, because we've gone beyond that point there. So let's go back in. So let's bring this back in, these edges here. And we're going to do the same with this one. And close that. And you can see, because we haven't gone beyond that cylinder, which is inside the trim face, that's there like that, and it's on that trim face. So the last projection method we're going to be using is again in the curves workbench, and we're going to be looking at creating a sketch on a curved surface, so map a sketch to a curved surface. This works by selecting one of the shapes. Let's take this shape here, and it will unmap this shape into 2D space, and you'll get different results depending on what shape you're using. So for instance, a sphere, it's going to unmap the sketch. So we've got the sketch here, and you can see it's got a map sketch. If we double click on that, it'll unmap it into 2D space. So we're in the sketcher now, double clicked on that. And if it looks a bit strange over here, it's just because I've got these closed up. There you go, that's more like the default view. So you can see our sphere. If I click on the spheres, press space, then you can see we've got this crosshairs here. This is a sketch, and it's unmapped part of that face there. So we can wrap this round, and if I place say a couple of circles on here, or whatever sketch you want to do on here. And we'll come back over to tasks and close that. You can see those sketches have been placed around that invisible sphere there. Click on that sphere, bring it back, you can see them there. And with those, what we can do is come into the sketch on surface, not the map sketch. On the sketch on surface, we'll have all the parameters that you can change on the data tab. And if we come down, just pull this over a bit, you can see fill extrusions is true and fill faces is false. Offset at the moment is 0, so these are all the defaults. So if we fill the face, set that to true and click off, and that'll update. You can see those faces are filled now. And if we want to bring them out, we add a thickness. So we add a 1 thickness upon there, and that's brought those out. So you can see them there extruding out. If I put a 10 on there, see they just come in further and further out, and they're following that sphere there. They're following the curvature of that sphere. So the more thickness I add to it, the further they're going to come out, and they're still going to follow that. We can use an offset to pull these in. So if I put 10 on here, that will push those out. Sorry, let's push them out. Positive pushes them out. So I did 100. Let's push them right out here. And if I did -10, then that will inset them in. So -10 on there. So we've inset them in because they're 20 thickness and they've gone 10 in. So if I hide that, you can see those are in there. What this means is also we can use booleans on here. So the part workbench, we can come into here. I can select the one that I want to keep and the feature that I want to remove. Although it's only selected one face, it's actually selected the sketch on surface there, and we can use a boolean on that. So let's remove them from there, like so. As I said, we get different effects depending on what shape we use. So this will unwrap a lot more easier than the last shape. To come out to the curves, and we'll unwrap that. Sketch on curves, and you can see that one's there. So double click that. Sorry, come into it and double click it. And you can see we've got something a bit more better now. So we've got how many millimeters and the height. So this is 200 millimeters high. And this conforms to the height, it should be the height of that cylinder. So you can see it's 200, radius is 60. So that's unwrapped there. This is a fully constrained sketch in here. These lines are construction geometry. So this is the reason why you don't see these lines on the sketch. So anything in here will be placed on that sketch. So for instance, I can place a slot on that sketch, hit close, and that will be placed around there. And we can use that sketch on surface, come down to extrusion. That's true at the moment. Let's just make an offset against that. So let's offset that by 10 and do a thickness of 30. You can see at the moment that extrusion is set, but it's not filled. So we just fill those faces, click off, and that's created that shape along there. So we can even do jewelry if you so desire. So any jewelry designs you can put. I've got a video on my site, on my channel, where I've used this kind of effect to create a ring, a Celtic ring, and you just sketch upon this surface. So we're starting to see the different ways that the mapper sketch on a surface actually takes that surface and extracts it out. Now we're going to see something different and pretty much unusable with this one. So this is the reason why I've gone through 3 different methods of doing this, because This method won't really work. So if we go to the map sketch, you'll notice that if I go back to 0.00, we've got this unmapping here, which is impossible to use for this. Not 100% sure what it does here. I've even tried taking this shape and doing it through the part design and creating a similar shape in there, and the unmapping is the same. We get the same effect there, so it's advisable not to use that there. I just close out of there and we'll get rid of that. And what I would use is a projection on there. So we could use the normal trim tools if we add this as a edge, or we can come over to the part and transform this over and just use our projection tools on here so we can get ourselves positioned. Okay, and just do the normal projection, and this should work just fine. So you can see that's projected on there. So I hope that's answered the questions. Keep an eye out on the channel because we'll be going into more on the Curves workbench. Also, we've got a new programming series for animation coming up. So that's animation in Python. We'll be going through a lot more in depth into Python in that. But we will still be keeping it at a beginner's level. So if you missed the first mini-series, you can go and watch that. But the new mini-series will take it from a beginner's perspective as well. So you don't have to worry about watching the other one, but we'll be looking much more into animation because we use Python with the animation, and it's best to go down that road and join those together. So I hope to see you again. I hope you're enjoying the channel. Bye for now. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to my site. And also I have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate a few pence or a few pounds, dollars, or whatever your currency is. And that's at ko-fi.com/mang0. And there you'll be able to help me fund my site, and all the money that I actually get from any funds will actually get pushed back into the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing. I'll see you next time.